They told me for years there was no money in podcasting. Well, they were all wrong.
You mentioned the minimum wage. As somebody who worked minimum wage jobs to get through college, I tell people every time this come up, as somebody who was making tacos at Taco Bell, I do not deserve $15 an hour. Very few people in that sort of industry do. The people who make it a career need probably some education, some help in other ways, unless you're in like management positions. It's not, those jobs are not meant to be careers. They're not meant to be really full-time permanent gigs. It is like working your way through college type of job, and the brain power to do it is not $15 an hour. It just isn't.
I understand that sentiment. Like, I in that sentiment, I agree with you, but I think people mix these up a little bit. No, you're thinking in a world of how it should be, right? That job shouldn't be $15 an hour because it doesn't require this. This job isn't meant to be a career. That's not what it should be. And yes, in essence, you're correct. A minimum wage job is made for kids in high school, kids in college, or senior citizens who are retired, right? Yeah. That's who it should be for. But that's not the world we live in. Like you can't really make policies like the minimum wage based off what it should be. It has to be on what it is. You have to make laws and policies based off the reality we live in. Like people do rely on those jobs or to those jobs to make rent, and it's still not enough. When these companies like a Taco Bell can afford to pay people more, other shops cannot, which sucks. I don't know what you do there, but certain companies can afford to pay people more.
Well, I'm not saying that they if they can, they shouldn't, or they shouldn't reward people for being good workers. Because I mean, sure, I saw a lot of that. Like there were a bunch of people I worked with that deserved more than they were making, but these companies, these huge companies, are penny pinchers, which is how they stay huge companies.
Exactly.
Be that as it may, but it's not. I disagree that you make laws according to what it is. Like, if we were just like, hey, like working at Taco Bell can, afford you rent and like the nice car you want and everything else, then that's what people would start doing instead of, and we've seen it with COVID, right? Like, hey, you don't want to go to work? We'll pay you more to stay at home. Like, and it's, when you start implementing those policies, people take advantage of it rather than, so if you keep the system as, hey, these are what this is meant for, it, like, there are people that bust their ass and work 4 or 5 of those part-time jobs and they make it work. Is it easy? No, but
they shouldn't have to. Like this is America, right? This is supposed to be the richest, most prosperous country. Yeah. This is supposed to be the American dream. That they shouldn't have to work 4 or 5 jobs just to barely get by. Working 60, 70 hours a week just to barely get by. That sounds terrible.
Absolutely not. But there's also a lot of personal choice that goes into that. You might be in a location where you feel like you're forced to work that many jobs, or economically you are forced to work that many jobs. You could move. It's America. We have freedom of movement, right?
We do, but that's easier said than done. Like I can't afford just to pick up all my shit and move down south. I mean, I could figure it out because I have support system and family and I have extra cash. Like I could do it, but that's not feasible. Like I think that's a cop out. That's a cop out answer. You could just move somewhere else. Most people can't. You know what I mean? Like, most people can't.
I'm not sitting here saying moving location is easy. For any number of reasons. It's not easy, whether it's family or whatever the case may be. It's not easy, but it's an option. Or
it is an option.
I mean, there's schooling, there's trade schooling, there's all other kinds of jobs that, I mean, I don't know the stats on any of it, but I mean, I'm sure there's lots of jobs that, like certain specific job areas, that Americans just aren't working in that job field, even though it's a good paying job field. And why not? Is that beneath us as Americans? And since when has any sort of work been beneath us as Americans? Like this country was founded on hard work.
Yeah.
And now we're going to say, hey, I'm not doing that job just because, like, and I mean, I've had it in my own life. Like I didn't need to be, I could have gotten other jobs, but I was like, well, this is what I can do right now. And I could have done other things, but I chose not to.
I think millennials and Gen Z might be the hardest working generation. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for that eventually. Because don't get me wrong, the greatest generation. Well, okay, it depends how you define work. Like the greatest generation, meaning yours and my grandparents, they did all the hard work, meaning manual labor, right?
And now we have influencers, and that's work.
See, but right? we don't. But we have influencers. Yes, we have people who make money just flashing their tits, right? Yeah. We have people who make money selling their feet and piss in a jar. That exists. But we also have millennials and Gen Z working 2 or 3 jobs just to get by, with mountains of debt and with no prosperity of a home, and no future of buying a home. So both of those things work in tandem. So that's why I think they're the hardest work, because they have to work harder than the great generation did to be able to get what they had.
Yeah, and I think we get a lot of flack for that.
We do.
Or those generations get a lot of flack for that, but and some of it is our own fault, but a lot of it the people raising us, and the policies we grew up with, like go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college.
Yeah.
We grew up in that sort of system and society where college was the end all be all, and it really screwed a lot of people. And because for most of them, they're getting lots of loans, and you can get to your career without having loans. You just can. And I think people are starting to refigure that out again, and realize hey, the people pushing college down our throats for years were just so excited that they were the first ones in their families to ever go to college that they thought it was the greatest thing in the world. But we don't all need to go to college.
Right. I 100% agree with you.